we'll kind of go over like race prep and different waxes for different conditions, different layers on mainly glide wax. So like the skate skis and like the tips and tails of classic skis for bigger races, longer races, high school races, the Berkey, West Yellowstone, like anything else, and kind of everything in between. So I kind of have a lot of tools and a lot of fun stuff, but kind of from the first one, like the basic things still apply. So you still need scrapers and brushes and everything else. I mean, like the roto brushes and stuff like that, like this is just a wire brush, same thing, just in a roto form. This one is like a kind of a softer brush, kind of a nylon with wire mixed into it. So kind of a crossover brush where like these ones is like a stiffer nylon brush, and then a polishing brush like this blue one. So roto brushes and stuff are the same as hand brushes. Roto brushes, the biggest thing with using the drill and roto brushes, it's a lot quicker, way quicker, and most of the time, most of the time it's cleaner. Like you get a cleaner product, product on the snow, just faster skis all the way around. Not that you don't get fast skis with hand brushes, and I use hand brushes a lot, especially dealing with like liquid waxes and stuff that doesn't need speed to get brushes, and really what brushing does is just get rid of extra wax, because if you have too much wax in your ski, it just slows you down, right? You're applying wax either with an iron or a liquid like a spray-on or something like that, letting it cool or dry, and then getting rid of the extra. Like that's the point of scraping and brushing, is getting rid of the extra. So the amount of wax, even though all these little vials and cubes or whatever are crazy expensive, the amount of wax that you actually leave on the ski is very minimal, which is kind of sad because everything's expensive.
So Eric, how do you know how much to scrape off?
So that's a wonderful question. Scraping, think of it like you can definitely scrape too much, but you can't brush too much.
Oh.
So typically, and it depends a little bit on the wax. So like harder waxes like blues, greens, some purples, blacks like this base prep, graphite, which is really hard. Maybe a couple more times scraping. It also helps to have a really, really sharp scraper. It's like having a sharp kitchen knife. Like it just is so much easier, smoother, and you're not trying to crank on it in one certain spot or something like that. But typically like, 3 to 4-ish passes on the scraper, and then brush till your heart's content.
Okay.
Really.
So you don't scrape until you're not pulling any more wax off? Okay, that's a mistake I made then.
Yeah, and I mean, like the first scrape, you're gonna try and get most of it, right?
Yeah.
The scrape 2 and 3 or 4, you're gonna try and get like 90% of the wax off. And some skis, a lot of skis, they're not gonna be perfectly flat either. So there's gonna be little divots, especially in the tips and tails, either from an iron, from old skis, from whatever. Sometimes it's just how they're manufactured, and that's just how it is. But instead of like sitting and scraping one spot forever and then also continuing to dig a hole in the ski that is already there, if you can scrape most of it off, go back with a brush, and like a metal brush like this, really soft steel, soft brass, something like that really helps. The roto brushes and stuff can definitely help with that. This one is really pretty stiff, so I typically only use this stiff metal brush for cleaning. And then very rarely do I use a stiff metal brush for getting rid of wax after scraping.
When you use a brush, you just go one direction. Okay, and then is it still okay? Is corking still okay to do with the the end with it?
Yeah, depends on the wax. So sometimes, actually, is there, in the back of the Subaru maybe, is there some kick wax? And that, I can just grab that whole bag. So like corking and stuff definitely applies. And you can take, blocks of wax and, rub it on the ski and cork it in, and you'll get some performance out of it, as long as it's not too much wax. We don't want to have too much wax on our skis, right? So I'll kind of jump in here with a freshly skied on ski, freshly skied at the West Fork ski, so it's smashed with asphalt.
I know divots are in the bottom of that
Fine
thing.
needle, fine.
Yeah, freshly stone grounds. Very natural stone grind too. It's like one of a kind. Yeah, so needless to say, the asphalt at the West Fork is really fun. But once you get up above basin, it's pretty decent. Actually, really up above the bridge, it's pretty decent. Like
We
the
went
first bridge.
yesterday, I agree.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to walk and carry.
So after you've skied, after whatever, or you're trying to, prep a pair of skis for racing, testing, just a performance, whether you're going out for a 50K ski, whether it's with a bib on or not, it's just really a good habit to clean the skis, like we talked about before, just with a little paper towel, base cleaner in here. It comes in bottles of all sizes and sprays and whatever. I just put it in a little spongy bottle to keep it manageable. And then just with the wire brush, just kind of a little scrub. And it's not really shiny anymore, right? But it's also letting that base cleaner kind of really pick up the dirt and pick up the pine sap, pick up the rocks and stuff that I skied over, pick up,
Did you say dog poop?
I mean, probably.
I didn't see any of that.
Quite possibly. Yeah, like I clobbered some asphalt there, that was fun. Yeah, so cleaning, getting the dirt out, and this is what happens after every race, after every time I test skis, after every time, we're switching wax, after every time, we're zeroing skis, which I can talk about too, of like getting the test fleet of skis. So this is just a couple pairs of my skis, and what I use for strictly testing.
Just rolled her eyes.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. What I use for testing is pairs of skis that are exactly the same. So the same graphics, same flex, same manufacture date, same brand, same everything. Where these ones were kind of like old race skis that have been turned into some testing somewhere, somehow. So after we do the base cleaner, a little brush with the wire brush, the soft wire brush. I go back in with the stiff wire brush. And pretty slow, right? This one doesn't need to go too fast, otherwise it'll just eat skis. So pretty slow, maybe one or two passes. And you can kind of see the dust, popping up, right? And, you can kind of see a little bit of that, just dust that comes out. And, not really a shiny ski, right? A shiny ski is what you want to go ski on, it's fast. This one would ski fine somewhere, but it wouldn't be any fun. So next, what I like to do is use some sort of base wax. And it can be a graphite, which is this. It can be a moly, which you can pass these around if you want to. Is, a little different. Moly, or molybdenum, is really good for super wet snow. So I've used it like on both coasts, East Coast and West Coast. Just really snow, raining, you know, all that sorts of stuff. Where graphite is really good in fresh snow, man-made snow, somewhere where the crystals are very sharp and new.
So Eric, you're talking my language when you talk Molly with wet snow. So what's the difference in the wax? Softer?
So Molly's a little softer, but it's also more dirt repellent, more water repellent, and kind of in these base layers in the Molly or the graphite, sometimes even in like a marathon wax, like Swix makes marathon wax, which are designed to go hundreds of kilometers. It's mainly just for durability and keeping what's on top of this wax alive, keeping it for as long as we can, keeping wax in the ski so you have fast skis for the duration of the ski. I've used Molly a lot in Anchorage.
Yeah. Yep, that's
a
what I'm
lot in
thinking. Yeah.
Anchorage.
Yep.
Yeah. And I used Molly in Truckee a number of years ago, quite a bit, when you could see like pine sap dripping down the giant pine trees into the ski trails because you're skiing across. So things like that, like pretty drastic. We raced on Molly in Italy for one of the races in Pragilato when I was there last January. So we had the Molly, that particular one, that Start Molly, mixed with like a marathon. You can open it if it's not open. And it was awesome just because it was so wet. Where like fresh snow, even like transformed snow, dry snow that we get a lot around here, I hardly ever use Molly. I've tested it, you know, every once in a while, and sometimes it, you know, pops off and does not too bad. But for the most part, you know, graphite is the way to go. So same application with the graphite, and it's pretty hard. So, you know, craning, smudging, really small strokes. I could definitely, you know, run, you know, a bead down, like that would be fine too. Sometimes it uses a little bit more than I want to use. So, you know, this is just a base layer of wax, so it's gonna get put down and scraped off. So it doesn't, it used to be covered, but not, you know, a lot.
It used to drip a lot. The crayon next to
Keep the iron moving, that's the biggest thing. If you take one thing away, is keep the iron moving. I've seen lots of bases get cooked. And when the base gets cooked, like think of like a ski base as like more or less a sponge. And the iron and the heat and the base cleaning opens up the sponge, and you put wax in and it closes the sponge. So if you're sitting there with the iron, it's just burning and solidifying the sponge in the ski base, and then it won't ever get open again.
I know different type of waxes have different temperatures. How important is that?
Different temperatures for
the iron.
like iron temperature. It's I definitely stay close to the iron temperature. I mean, for a warmer wax, reds, yellows, things like that, the iron temperature can be lower because they melt at a lower point, right? But like the colder waxes, harder waxes, greens, blues, purples, blacks, things like that, like they need some heat for sure. Like this is at 165 Celsius, and I think it's probably
That's what it says, buddy.
somewhere in there.
What's it say, man?
Molybdenum says 130 and the graphite says 140.
Yeah. So I typically run irons a bit warmer, but I'm also moving them quicker. So instead of sitting in one spot and letting that wax melt and then moving to the next spot and moving the iron really slow, I'll do multiple passes down the ski. Yeah. So yeah, I mean I typically run around 15 to 20 degrees warmer than what the box says. Not that running whatever the package is wrong. It's there for a reason. So, yeah. Yeah. I think running a little warmer iron quicker down the ski kind of penetrates the base a little bit better. But so this is one layer of a race ski, and typically there's like 6 layers of a race ski-ish.
Does that depend on the distance?
It
Like
depends on the
sprint
distance.
versus like a 50K?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
So sprints and stuff, unless the snow's really dirty, it's brand new snow, like physically falling snow or something like that. Typically I skip this layer on anything under like a 5K. Because the durability that you get from this isn't that much, and this, you know, moly and graphite doesn't necessarily add to the speed of the ski. I mean, it can in some cases, and it's worth testing different brands to see which is better, and different, you know, testing moly versus graphite and testing, you know, all sorts of stuff. But it doesn't necessarily add to the speed, it just adds to the durability. So keeping wax on the ski for longer, especially in like really abrasive snow. Classic tracks and stuff can be really notorious for being abrasive. So,
What do you think those Norwegians had that never even switched out skis for 50K?
some stubbornness between all of them. That was a wild race. Like everyone else switched skis, and then those 3 up front. Like, I mean, you could kind of see them like coming into the lap and like talking to each other and like, are you gonna switch? Are you gonna switch? I mean, and then if like one of them doesn't switch, and then like 2 of them, then they're like, you know, that whole group of 3 is blown up. But you know, same process here. Iron in, wait till it's cool, probably 15-20 minutes. With a warmer iron, sometimes it takes a little longer to cool. But I mean, sometimes half an hour, really as long as you can. And then, you know, it's ready to rock and roll. These ones already have the graphite on them. So just like in the cooking show, these are already ready to go. Same process, scraping and brushing. This graphite is really hard, so it chips off, like it just turns into dust, right? And typically with all of my scraping, I like to do the grooves and the edges and stuff first, if they're not scraped already, after using the iron.
You just hear that.
Yeah.
It's
got a
So if you're doing a touring ski, not a racing ski, you'd be doing the same thing,
I mean, it definitely
tips
helps.
and tails.
Yeah, for the glide. It definitely helps for the longevity of the ski, especially in, you know, like if we were on the East Coast, where it's very icy snow, very, can be very fresh snow, but also very abrasive snow, very heavy snow. Yeah, I would definitely have some sort of black material going into the ski on a fairly regular basis. Maybe not every time you wax, but every couple times, yeah.
Under hard conditions that we get right now.
Right. And non-conditions?
It's whitish.
Yeah. I mean, you can just, like, this just goes poof. So that's 2 brushes or scrapes, alright? And the third, like, I'm not getting much left. And there's still a little bit, like up here, there's a little shiny spot, you know, that still has some wax in it, kind of right down the middle has some wax.
Give it a little twist, so
Yeah,
you can kind of see the light reflecting.
and you can, I mean, you can even pass this one around if you want to. So that's after three scrapes, and like I would start brushing that one right now instead of trying to, you know, continue to scrape out little spots, especially, you know, graphite and poly and stuff. It really holds onto the ski a lot more. So you'll find spots where wax will either pool or, you know, just not really want to leave with a scraper.
What do you do on the edge there? Just the edge of that round thing? or
So
is that
just
special?
cleaning the edge of the ski, kind of like with like metal edges and stuff like that. Like,
There's like a
getting-
little notch on
Using
your
that-
scraper.
Are you using the notch?
Yeah,
Okay.
so right in here,
Oh,
there's
yeah,
a
yeah.
couple different ones. Most of the time, like the groove scrapers and stuff do this. You can use like the sides of your scrapers too.
Yeah.
Like sometimes that works. You know, that can definitely work too.
Yeah, we can scrape it.
So when I talk about like zeroing skis on all of my fleets of skis, thank you. This is the process that I go through. So like all of the skis are waxed the same, they're brushed the same, everything else. And then you can apply, once they're zeroed, you can apply different waxes for testing. So, you know, like for race day or before race day, like this wax would typically be chosen like the day before, 2 days before a race. It's typically, you know, barring any craziness, like not going to be that much change in, you know, the conditions of the snow and stuff like that, especially down in this layer, you know, the kind of the bottom layers and stuff of the waxes. So then with the soft wire brush, and then this one will run quite a bit faster with kind of a stiffer nylon, and then the polishing brush, and like 2 or 3 passes each or so. And because it's a roto brush, I can go down and back and the brush still runs the same direction. You always want to have the roto brushes running tip to tail as well. Yeah. So this ski, just with the graphite brushed off, is pretty nice, ready to rock and roll, right? And like I said, like graphite definitely helps with some speed, but I mean, you can always make things faster. So let's make it faster. So on a little colder day, you know, kind of a blue day that's maybe warming just a little bit, we can kind of get a little crazy and do some mixing. So when I go into like mixing waxes and different combinations of waxes, first of all, I try and find like a brand that works. So like Swix, Toco, Start, Rody, I mean there's tons of brands, right? And see which brand tends to be working. And like mixing waxes and stuff, most of the time the brands themselves will mix together, like Swix with Swix and Toco with Toco and stuff like that. But if you mix different brands together, like the chemical makeup and stuff, it can sometimes have adverse effects, which sometimes can be kind of cool to play with, but most of the time it's not exactly what you want. So after brushing and scraping, a couple different ways you can mix wax. Like if you're kind of right in the middle of this blue range, about 18 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit in this one. This one's kind of like 22 to 28 degrees or so. You can mix a little bit differently, or if you're going to be out for a longer time and like your day starts in a little colder and it's warming up, right? Or the snow temperature is colder and starting to warm up. a couple different ways you can mix. And if you just want a little bit warmer wax, right, you can just cran it on and then take a different wax and, you know, smudge it on top. So that's definitely one way to mix wax. And this is probably like a 2-to-1-ish ratio, you know?
So Eric, why wouldn't you crayon both of them? And what's the
If you
science
want a
behind that?
little bit more of one or the other,
Okay,
if you're kind of trending towards one range versus the other range of the waxes.
got it.
But you can also do like a 50-50. So you can take and smudge one, right? And then take the other one and smudge that one. So same thing. This way, with two different waxes, you end up with a lot more wax on the ski, right? But until about here, I mean, it was kind of smudged on, and like the front half of the ski was crayoned with purple, and the back half was smudged with both of them. So you end up with about the same amount of wax. But it just kind of depends on what the conditions call for. You know, if you want to be a little colder, a little warmer, a little more durable, a little less durable, it kind of just depends. And these are things like I test, like I'll test the purple by itself, I'll test the blue by itself, I'll test it in a 50-50 ratio, I'll test it in like a 2-to-1, like with craning one underneath, or vice versa, or you know, anything like that, in all of the different brands too. So you know, you can be, you know, endless with the amount of wax.
I was just thinking, like,
Waxes and
what's the most
combinations.
amount of skis you've ever done for a race with your combinations? That could be endless.
It is endless.
Yeah.
I would say, like, for junior nationals last year, I tested within the span of like 10 days, probably upwards of like 200, 250 different combinations of wax,
Wow.
different brands, different,
Sure.
you know, colors,
Huh.
different combos, different whatever.
You said, does it matter, or is there a difference on which one goes down first? Or does it just kind of
Not
melt
necessarily.
together?
They all just kind of melt together.
Okay.
Again, it kind of depends on which one you want to trend more towards. So like this, in the front half of that ski, you know, I crayoned on the purple, which is a little softer. So that's like the one where the cold was a little bit more wax. So it was like a 2-to-1. So it would be a little bit colder on the colder side of things. But I could totally switch it. Sometimes the warmer waxes, the purples, reds, yellows, whatever, crayon a little easier. They'll rub onto the ski a little
Sure.
easier.
Yeah.
Where the harder waxes definitely struggle sometimes to crayon onto the ski, just because they're harder. So this one, back to being brushed. And I mean, you can kind of see like areas in this ski. This is the one that was passed around, that there was spots that, you know, there was still wax, still issues going on. And also, like, with these base layers, like, you're gonna be waxing and scraping again, so if it's not 100% gone, it's not that big a deal, because you're gonna do it again. But like this one, you know, cleaned up pretty well, just after some brushing, and like 3 passes on scraping. So as far as paraffin waxes and stuff go, that's, I mean, you can get as in-depth with this as you want. And you can be different colors, different whatever. And I mean, like I've said before, like in this new world of waxing, the color and the temperature range that's on the package kind of means nothing. With the new fluoro-free waxes and stuff like that. Before, like with the fluoro waxes, it was always like, this wax is specific for this condition and it just works, But now, like with the different additives and the different, everything else, like there's a lot of folks, me included, seeing these wide ranges of waxes that should not be working in conditions that they're amazing. Like the trip to Fairbanks a number of years ago, I had like a Swix yellow that was just like lights out super fast and nothing could beat it. Where, I mean, this yellow is 10 to 0 degrees Celsius, 32 to 50 Fahrenheit, and it was a little colder than that. They had like delayed the races till noon to like get up to -20 Fahrenheit.
Oh.
But like, I mean, it kind of goes to show like any color on any given day can be awesome. So that's why I do a lot of testing. And like right now, like this age to be in the waxing world is really fascinating because it's all brand new. It's all different. It's all like, try it and see if it works. Where like fluoro, there was so many years of trial and research and whenever, and it was like, this works
So dialed in.
at this time, so go for it.
So how long has it been since the fluoro was banned?
It's been banned in the US for 5 years. Yeah, so maybe even more than that, maybe 6 or 7. I think 2020, yeah, so March of 2020 was the last time I used fluorocarbons, and that was in Truckee, when the whole world ended. And then after that, it was banned in the US for competitions, most competitions, and it depends on like the venue and where you are. Like some mountains in the US don't really care right now, and some mountains like ski mountains are completely fluoro free, and some Nordic centers don't really care right now, and some Nordic centers are completely fluoro free, whether you're racing or not. And so it's very helpful to know where you're going, what you can use, and everything else. And like even like all these old brushes and stuff, like all this dust that pops out, like that's the old fluoros, they don't go away. It's a very forever chemical that just doesn't leave. So, being able to clean your brushes, clean your irons, clean scrapers, clean everything is next to impossible. That's been caked in fluoros for however many years. But like, all of these races and stuff are fluoro free. And like I said, the US was fluoro free for quite a while. And then like European racing and World Cup racing has been fluoro free for a couple of years less than the US. So the US was the first to go officially fluoro free, and then like FIS and the World Cup racing and European racing and stuff followed a couple of years after. Yeah. So another kind of.
Can you like step back and explain, why they went fluoro free, what the problems are with fluorinated wax? It's kind of scary.
Yeah, so I mean, like fluorinated wax is really like the whole chemical makeup, and when you look at like the chemistry behind fluorocarbons and stuff like that, it's just the molecules of water on the ski base, right, and just deleting friction on the ski base. And when you have things that are forever chemicals like that and repel water, they stay forever because there's nowhere to flush them, right? So it leaches into the snow system, into the ground, into the water system, into wherever it ends up, and then it goes up and rains down again, and then you have fluorocarbons just recycling in the whole world of whatever. Also, in like the actual waxing world, when you apply heat to fluorocarbons, it creates this crazy smoky mess that is nasty. So when you see wax techs in like these big crazy respirators and full masks and like a space suit essentially, like that's what it's for. So when you burn fluorocarbons into your ski, it just is so smoky, and you're breathing that in, which is toxic. And in reality, like this new stuff could be just as toxic. They just haven't figured it out yet. So, you know, but like when I'm in, you know, a small enclosed wax cabin for 10 days, scraping and brushing and scraping and brushing and whatever, all this dust goes everywhere, I definitely, you know, wear a mask and stay protected, like with the gloves and with, you know, everything else. Just keeping as clean as you can is helpful. Yeah. So, but like with the new fluoro race waxes and stuff like that, like it's most of them are like a nanoceramic base. So nanoceramics injected into the wax itself, into the paraffin carrier agent, and then that is also applied to the ski in some form or another, whether it's a powder form or a, you know, a block form that you iron in or anything else. And sometimes they can be just as fast as fluorocarbons, but in like the super wet, saturated, soggy snow, there's not much that's as fast or faster than fluorocarbons. So like race times and ski times and stuff right now are slower than they were 6, 7, 8 years ago, which is fascinating. Yeah. Yeah. So another form to put, you know, a kind of a race layer in, a paraffin layer in, something over the top of a base wax like the graphite, is in a powder form. And there's lots of colors in this, lots of brands in this, lots of whatever. And it kind of goes on a little differently, still same with the iron, but with this, it's just capped on, and this has a paraffin base to it as a carrier agent, but there's a little bit more kind of ceramic and speed additive. So sometimes you can have a little faster speed in something like this, sometimes not. Like I said, like, you know, most, like in the fluorocarbon days, it was like you get a brand new pair of skis, you do this as many times as you possibly can to burn as many fluorocarbons into the skis you can. We're now like HS5, HS6, you know, cheap $20 block of wax could be just as fast as anything else. But, you know, in a powder form, sometimes it can go on a little even or more even. Sometimes it can be a little quicker. Sometimes it can work better in wetter snow, fresher snow, like 0 degrees Celsius, 32 Fahrenheit snow, things like that can be helpful. But it's the same kind of application with the iron, still pretty warm iron, and then, you know, just melting it on. You do get a little bit of the smoke, but like you do with the old fluoro waxes and stuff like that. But.
Somebody has a, Andrew, do you reach the front door? Must be Kristen, ski joint.
Her voice doesn't.
Or maybe.
So, same kind of idea. And then when this is dried and cool, it's still scrape and brush.
So that's just, you just didn't want any on the center, is that why there's the white powdery still?
So the white powder in the middle is just kind of melted, you know, stuff that, you know, just kind of happens. Yeah, just kind of happens to be there.
Is the cooling time any different between the powder and the paraffin wax?
It can be. So in it depends on the wax. You know, a warmer wax a red, yellow, you know, something like that, won't take quite as much time to cool down, just because it doesn't need as much heat to.
Between
No.
like the crayon type and the powder, so similar between the two.
Yeah, I'd say similar,
Okay.
similar
Okay.
cooling times, yeah. Like this is, you know, I powdered this one earlier, and it's been sitting here for how many hours now, but, yeah. So, I mean, the biggest thing is, you know, just having it have time to cool down. You know, if you peel this out when it's still warm, you're just pulling out most of what you put into the ski, and what you leave is going to be mostly ski base, and that's not going to last very long to ski on. So same process, scraping, brushing.
Is there any benefit to heating up the sea again with wax on it a couple, 3 times, or is it
Yeah.
cooling off each time?
So that's also something that I test quite a bit. So, you know, in like these big stores, big places that have, you know, stone grinders and stuff like that, they also have what's called a hot box, which essentially, you know, you put a layer of wax in the ski and you put it in an oven, and the wax just seeps into the ski in an oven, essentially, you know, a big long oven. It doesn't get that hot, you know, it sits, you know, around 100 degrees Celsius for hours, though. Like, you put a ski in there for like 4 hours and it just soaks in. So there's definitely a benefit to that, especially if you're prepping a pair of skis, brand new pair of skis, something like that. As far as running the iron over the top of the wax again after it's cooled, kind of doing it again, it's definitely something I test quite a bit and have had success with. So it kind of does the same thing, you know, it reheats the wax that's already there and seeps in just a little bit more, or adds some durability, or adds some, you know, nothing in my head that I think is cool. You know, it's just a cool thing. But I've definitely tested it quite a bit with powders and with the solid paraffins. Like with the powder, you know, it'll come off in the powder form, but also, you know, there's not much that's coming off. So, you know, maybe 2 or 3 good passes with the scraper, and then going at it with brush.
What's the cost factor of the powder? Is it a lot more expensive than your regular paraffin?
It can be, yeah, for sure. So, like, you know, a race version of this, you know, is around $100, $80 to $100, and same cost for something like this. And, you know, so it definitely kind of ranges in that price range. You know, some powders can be really expensive. Some are becoming more of like just a base paraffin, and you just tap on the powder and melt it in just like you would any other hot wax like this. You know, there's brands like Star is one of them that is not really doing any blocks of wax anymore. They've just gone strictly to powders in all colors and varieties of, you know, speed additives and stuff. So this one is really pretty ready to go. Like, I mean, it has a base layer in it. It's been cleaned. It's got a graphite layer. It's got a, you know, a powder of the day that has been, you know, tested. It's been, you know, whatever, proven to be fast. Like, you know, this is pretty shiny and ready to rock and roll, right?
It's not catching the light.
Yeah, the light is kind of goofy.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you can kind of see like there's some dust on it still, and with you know, with a ski like this, like you can take a little fiberline and just dust off the extra,
Yeah.
make it shiny. You can have a really soft, polishing brush is what it's called. And just get the extra dust off and have it ready to rock and roll. And then, so that's kind of one thing to, can be ready to rock and roll and go ski. The other thing that really helps with fast skis is putting structure or texture on the skis. And this can be as crazy as you want it to be. So this structure tool is pretty intense, but we'll kind of go over it quick. So there's lots of different tools in here for different kinds of snow, different humidity levels, different whatever. This kind of breaks up the flat surface of the ski base and the flat surface of the snow, right? And as you ski over snow, you create like this very micro film of water. Sometimes it's more in warmer conditions, sometimes it's less in colder conditions, but there's always a very fine micro film of water between your ski and the rest of the snow that you're skiing on. So what structure does is moves water through the ski. So after you're done with all of your heating elements, the irons and the torches and stuff like that, you can press a structure into the ski for different conditions to move water through the ski and continue your gliding, right? So I'll use this one, and it had, like, we'll be able to see this one. But most of the time, like, we don't need to press down super hard. We don't need to destroy the ski, right? But, a little bit into the ski. I don't know if we'll be able to see this one or not, but you can kind of see, like, this is, a V shape, and it would press a V into the ski. Yeah. Not really see that one. That's
I can see it's down here.
a little bit.
Or no, I guess that's the normal thing, isn't it?
So we'll use this one. This one's cool.
When you say you're moving water through the ski, what do you?
You kind of make a little conduit, a little
Yeah.
tunnel, let the
Okay.
water.
So it's running along.
Yeah. So
Think
different
of a
patterns
hydroplane
on the bottom
timer.
of the ski move the water in different ways to keep the ski moving.
I
that's
like tires.
Mhm.
Tires move
To
water.
prevent
I
hydroplane.
thought there was
Yeah.
one thing that, one tool for
Channeling the
structure.
water, if you will.
15.
So, I mean, it's kind of
How
the
do you know
same
which one to use? It depends on how much.
also with
What?
testing.
So
So I have another fleet of skis, like I have another pair or like 5 pairs of skis that are all the same for this right here. So they're all waxed exactly the same all the time. And then I take for the conditions, and you can pass this one around, and you can kind of shine it in the light and see the different patterns.
But you can't
in the
feel it, like
ski.
if you rub your fingernail along it. You
Probably
can't really
not.
feel it.
Yeah, it's
micro.
very micro. So I have 10 skis, 5 pairs of skis that are all exactly the same, and I run different combinations of this in that situation, and then I pair the structure with the glide, put all the pieces together to make a race ski. So this is like number 4 in the layers of 4 to 6 layers of race wax.
So you have all this information in your head on how many pairs of skis?
He's got a notebook, it's on him.
That's why I take lots of notes. So this is just
Cool.
a page that I snagged out of my test book, and it's kind of just a lot of numbers and words and random stuff. But you can kind of see like the process of building a ski, testing a ski, and what it's like. So on there, I have like what's on each ski.
So like this is
And-
the name of the ski, the P1A.
So like the P1A through P3B skis on there, which says what it is. Those are all structures. And the P stands for Peltonen, the brand of Peltonen skis. And then the R's, so R1 through R3 A and B, those stand for Rossignol. So I have a Rossignol fleet of skis. So the Rossignol fleet of skis on that sheet are all different glide products, where the Pelton skis on that sheet are structure products and structures. So you have like the snow temperatures, the relative humidity on there, and you have the different testing times and when the race skis are ready. And then on the other side of that sheet, on the back side, is what the actual, like what was on the race ski itself, the final
So
product.
testing means, do you go out and test them?
Yeah.
So, do you test skis for, so I'm also thinking, what, do you know the skier that's gonna ski them, and
Yeah, so
that one weighs 100 pounds and somebody else weighs,
most of
200.
most of the time, as far as glide wax goes, what's working for someone is going to work for someone else. A vast majority of the time. Sometimes like ski characteristics are a little different, and like if you have a really soft ski versus a really stiff ski, you know, sometimes the glide stuff can be a little different on like the ski. But as far as like glide goes, you know, it's going to be relatively similar across the whole board of whoever you end up waxing for, whoever I end up waxing for, whatever. When the changes come in is kick on classic skis and kick wax, and that becomes pretty individual specific and or ski specific. So, you know, keeping in mind, like, does this person want a little grippier skis? Is the course that we're skiing on have more uphill than kind of downhill? Or are the downhills really, really fast? And we want really fast skis so we can kind of back off the kick a little bit. We still want to have kick going up hills, right? But we don't need to have too much, so when we crest the hill and go down, our skis are slow. Or stick, like in the women's 50K when they all jumped on their brand new skis and ended up on their face. So they were all on cluster skis and they were just baking in the sun. And as soon as they pressed down on that ski, it just stuck and boom, slapped right in the face.
So how, if you're testing, like, is it subjective, or do you time it, or how does it work?
All of the above.
Oh.
So most of the time, this process is done with a team of folks. So we'll have like one person or two people designated for structure in a team of wax techs. We'll have one person or two people designated for like kind of base glide wax and or topper glide wax, because you can put liquids and block applications, like really top end speed stuff, on top of the structure. Just as soon as you put heat into the structure, it pulls the structure out. So yeah, so I mean, we can do that right now too.
When you say pulls it out, means it fades it away, or it makes it strong, you know, deeper, stronger?
It deletes it,
Okay.
so it pulls it away.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the ski that I just put structure in, and it can be a race ski, it can be one of my many skis that has lots of different structure on it, so I want to clean it and get it ready to go for the next time I want to put structure back into it, right? So, you know, we can go back, same process, right? I mean, there's going to be a lot of dust coming off this because it's a brand new ski, but same little brush. Wire brush, and sometimes like that alone will pull the structure out of a ski. Sometimes, but you can kind of see in here like there's still a little bit left. So just having a warm generic wax, you know, like this is just a red from somewhere or a conglomeration of lots of reds, but putting, you know, just a thin layer of wax down in the ski, and then we're gonna iron or scrape and brush pretty soon, so we're not gonna let this one cool. And this one helps clean the ski, and two kind of opens up the ski and when we scrape and brush, it will pull the structure out that we just put in. So this is what I call zeroing skis. So I do this to every ski to clean it and to get it ready to go for the next test. So if all the skis are different at one point, they need to all become the same again to get, you know, testing results, accurate
Sure.
testing results the next time, right? So, and
Science experiment testing your hypothesis.
Yeah. So as far as like testing goes and how to create results from testing, one, you can do what's called like a field test,
Yes.
like how you feel. So all the skis are different. You go out on each ski, compare it to another ski, write down the results. That's what that sheet is field testing or feel. Another good way to test skis is with glide outs. So if you have someone, you know, another tech or a racer or someone who's around the same body weight, you can have pairs of skis that are waxed the same. So like this pair of skis and a different pair of skis, you know, are waxed differently. And then you jump in tracks and go down and like kind of hold arms real quick so you equal speed and then see which pair of skis goes faster or slower. So that's a good way to see what wax is faster or not.
Might be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Kind of good.
And you can do glide out testing like that for skis too. So like if an athlete has multiple pairs of skis that they're trying to choose on race day, you know, you can have someone around the same body weight, as long as the skis are waxed the same, you can have someone jump on one pair, athlete jump on another pair, go down the track, see which one's faster.
So what is when you have a ski, you're waxing and they're really fast, when you're taking that ski up the hill and you want grip, what is the chemistry, I guess, of how does that work between the surface of the ski, the wax, and the snow?
So think of kick wax as like glue, essentially. And the snow is whatever particle you want it to be. And the particles in the glue, you know, they'll attract, right? And grip, and that's the kicking phase. Like that's when you're pushing the wax or the skins down into the snow, right? That grips, and then when you release, that motion is the release behind you. So the grip and the kick, the glue that's on your ski, right? And the snow, you know, grip down, stick to the ice crystals, ice chunks, snow crystals, whatever. Grip down when you press down on the ski, and then release behind you. It's pretty cool, and there's tons and tons of different kinds of kick wax. I mean, this bag is full of lots of little teeny tiny knobs of kick wax that I just use for the ski team all the time. So I'm just using up lots of little bits. And, you know, if you're within like the temperature range on the kick wax for the snow, like it'll probably work. But again, like same thing over here, like there's lots of kick wax that work way outside of the temperature ranges. And then we get into like clisters and, you know, mixes and all sorts of stuff. So this ski just got the structure pulled out of it, right? And now it's ready to put something else on it
New.
and to retest.
So it's zeroed.
Yeah, zero.
So, give us an estimate of how much that black box costs.
Like thousands. Thousands? Yeah.
Today's dollars, right?
Not like in
With tariffs,
South.
18
with the tariff.
I was lucky to get it
More
before
tariffs.
tariffs. Otherwise, it would be thousands more, because it's from Germany. Yeah, so yeah, thousands. And you can get as intense with structure as you want. I mean, there's lots of, smaller tools that I use a lot from Swix, from Toco, that are just, little plastic mouse rollers that have similar patterns, that, you can run down the ski and you get similar results and stuff. And I've used those and I still test those quite a bit. This one is awesome. I really like it. And like this one, you can run the structures backwards. So if you have, like with the second gear, so essentially you have one of each in one direction. You put the gear on it and it runs it backwards. So now you have double the amount of structures. And so this will run this structure pattern, which goes into the ski, run it backwards on the ski, which elongates it and kind of cuts a little deeper. Where without, running it like this, right, without the gear, without running it backwards, it just presses into the ski. So it's a smaller, visible, smaller, whatever. Where this will run backwards into the ski, elongate the pattern, cut deeper into the ski. Where you have like stone grinding and, those whole processes, and stone grinding will put more or less a permanent structure in the ski that with an iron application you cannot pull out of the ski. But those are massive, crazy expensive machines.
I don't know if this is a wax question, but we both have those Mad Shush skis that have the kicker skins. And the days when we go out and we're gliding and all of a sudden snow starts, it's kind of like that night sticking at the bottom of your, what's going on there?
So it's like when you lick a frozen popsicle or lick a flagpole and your tongue sticks to it, kind of the same concept, right? So you have a cold, dry something and wet, warm that just attracts, right? And everything, and as soon as one little bit attracts, it just becomes a giant snowshoe, right? So again, what we do with wax is repel water. Like that's the whole name of the game right here, is deleting water, deleting friction, right? So anything we can do to get rid of water. And as soon as your skins, or even classic skis for that matter, or skate skis, like as soon as that warms up, attracts snow, either delete, like your wax is gone, or changing conditions, or a number of different things can happen. As soon as one little bit of snow attracts to the bottom of your ski, all of its buddies want to go as well. Yeah. So as far as glide goes, like after the structure, we have a couple more options. One option is do nothing, go race, have fun. It's totally fine. Another option is to add more wax of other various sorts. So after we're done brushing, after we're done scraping, after we're done doing everything, after we're done putting the structure in, like on that sheet you can see the Rosignol skis on there. The fastest ski was actually one without anything above the structure, which happens quite a bit. So you spend all this time and money in wax and effort putting on wax, and then the blank ski is still the fastest, which happens quite a bit. So after the structure, you can go back in with some sort of speed additive liquid if you want to. So like this is like top speed from Swix, and there's lots of brands, there's lots of blocks, there's lots of whatever. So this is also something you would test as well. And this just down the ski. And you can let it dry like this if you want to, or brush it in with a little bit of Fiberline. But I mean, most of these sprays and stuff like that have an alcohol, like isopropyl alcohol base, so they evaporate. The alcohol evaporates pretty quickly, and that's just a carrier agent for the wax itself to kind of penetrate the ski.
So can you reapply that while you're skiing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that you could reapply.
So that Fiberline, is that just standard stuff you buy in the store?
Yeah, I mean, this is, kind of it's not really paper towel, it's not really like the Blue Shop towel, it's kind of more ski specific, but it comes in lots of different roll sizes, all sorts of stuff, pretty versatile stuff. I think it lasts longer than like the Blue Shop towels. It doesn't leave any residue, like it won't fall apart like the Blue Shop towels can or paper towels can, and then you have particles of paper towel in your ski. Where like this, stays together. Yeah. So you can let that dry and, polish it a little bit after, 15, 20 minutes. Go ski race after structure. Sometimes you don't need that, depending on the snow conditions. Yeah.
Are you using AI yet to, you type in the conditions and it tells you what you need to do to wax? You play
Not
around with
necessarily AI, but I do have a big giant Google Drive form that has all of my notes, and I can search conditions from one venue that were similar to a different race venue and be like, oh, this was working here, so let me try it here and see if this works again. Or, keeping really good notes of all of the different places and finding notes from all the different wax techs from all over the world of these were the conditions that this wax, this ski, this whatever was working specifically, so if we're in conditions similar, let's try it. Find something to start with.
That's cool.
When you talk about the quality, what makes one ski more expensive than another? Is it really the quality of the base?
Base material, like the black or white or rainbow colored for Solomon or whatever, has something to do with it. So one, thing with base material, like high quality base material, can open and close quite a bit more like the sponge, to take many applications of wax, because they are getting re-waxed a lot. Where, touring skis, metal edge skis, kind of entry level skate skis, classic skis, stuff like that, they're probably not going to get waxed that often. So the base material itself is going to be harder to penetrate with wax, but also the abrasive snow and the amount of time in between waxing doesn't have quite as effect. Where in a more expensive ski, the base material will, hold on to wax a little bit more, as well as be able to open and close with different waxes a lot more. And then it's the ski structure itself. So most of the skis at higher end have some layer of carbon fiber in them somewhere in the many layers of the ski. Some of them have, when I go break another pair of skis, you'll be able to see what the inside of the skis look like. It looks like cardboard, essentially, like expensive cardboard. But the fibers are kind of along the ski. So, they're, perpendicular to the ski. So that gives you the flex, it gives you, everything else, but also keeps the ski super light, to where you have more entry level skis, touring skis, metal edge skis. They're either going to be a wood core, which is really durable, but also much heavier, or some kind of foam, like a hard foam core, which is also, fairly durable, probably a little heavier, but also over time with the amount of skiing and the compression on classic skis or skate skis, just the amount of compression for however many years you have them, that ski just gets weaker and weaker and weaker over time. Where, you know, a higher end ski will kind of hold the structure of the ski a bit more too.
So I guess you just have to ask, what your,
Yeah, and you know, most ski shops, you know, have kind of the
The
whole
range.
range. You know, like the skate skis on this side right here are very similar to like a race ski. You know, they have the same base material as race skis. They have a carbon fiber sheet in them to keep them stiff, keep them light. They have, you know, kind of the honeycomb, it looks like a beehive, honeycomb core inside to keep the structure, keep it light, keep it stiff, everything else.
We don't stock the $1,000 race skis.
Cool. So when we're on classic skis or racing for classic skiing or anything else, when we're doing kick wax, right? Which most of the time in a race setting, we're on some sort of kick wax on classic skis. There's definitely some situations where skins are used and they can be very good, especially around like the 0 degree Celsius 32 range. And like freshly fallen snow, because it's a really, really hard temperature range to find actual kick wax for or blister for. But having, you know, skins or Harries, so what happens with Harries or zeros is what they're also known as, is this little teeny tiny fibers on the base of the ski that stick up, and you can ski on those. It's like a microscopic like version of skin skis, so which are also kind of cool, but they're also like very condition specific, so you don't see them that often much at all. But when we're working with kick wax in whatever flavor you want, you can use some green because I want it to be cold.
Thank you.
First thing, you know, having the glide zone completely done. So cleaned, base wax, race layers, you know, paraffins, liquids, structures, whatever you're doing to race and have the glide zone completely done before, you know, you do anything with the kick. First of all, cleaning the old kick wax off is very important, and getting rid of the old stuff, because chances are that's not going to work again. But having a little sandpaper, I like to use 180 grit, and just roughing up, not a lot of pressure, but just roughing up the kick zone in, you know, a couple of different directions to kind of get the base roughed up a little bit to be able to hold kick wax, especially for longer races.
So right now there's no residual wax?
There's nothing, yep. They might as well be skate skis, very long skate skis. And like you can see on this one, you know, like it's been perhaps ready to rock and roll, but in the middle it's always kind of that white whatever. And you kind of get that with like your fish scale skis, it's the same kind of color, right? Because there's no wax on it. And the middle of the ski, classic skis, don't get glide wax at all. Even when you're cleaning or storing or whatever, like it just always stays kick wax. So just a little bit of roughing up, you know, brush off the dust, and then you can kind of go with however many layers you would like to go with. Typically I like to start with like 3 layers, but you can kind of go with 2 layers with a softer ski, or build more, you know, in like a stiffer ski. But this, you know, is also something that you would test as far as what, you know, kicks and grips the snow well, what is too grippy and sticky, what doesn't kick, what initially grips to the snow, and then as you like release in a classic ski, it just like gives out, right? So what feels the best all the way around in what kind of classic wax? But the biggest thing with kick wax, any kind of kick wax, is trying to keep it as thin as we can. And with this green wax, even though it's, you know, rather warm in here, this green wax is fairly soft, like, you know, and the range on this one, I mean, it's all in finish, 14 to 23 Fahrenheit. So, you know, a thin layer, and then take the cork and smooth it out. And this can be done, you know, not on a bench. It can be done outside, corking it like this. It can be done wherever. I think done on a bench just is a lot cleaner, can be quicker, can be more even, you know, keeping things a lot smoother. Yeah. So that was one layer. You know, we'll go 2 layers. The blue tape, keep in mind, is like in the glide zone itself. So, you know, we're kind of backing it off a little bit in the zone. So underneath this blue tape has the glide wax, has the structure, it's ready to go. So we can kind of be
The very middle of the ski is where the binding is grabbing onto that plant.
yeah, just like how your boot grabs onto the ski.
And then the tape is exactly X number of inches from there. Both
Yeah,
forward
and
backward.
this is where it becomes, you know, skier specific. So each classic ski is going to have a different zone. You know, sometimes the skier is heavier, so the zone's going to be shorter. Sometimes the skier is lighter, so the zone's going to be bigger. It's not really going to go much past the heel anyway, but it'll go forward. And like these marks on the side here, and I just use fancy nail polish to mark those, works pretty well. So the front one is for a specific kind of wax like blister or hard wax, and the back one is for a specific kind of wax like blister or hard wax. So this, you know, is 3 layers of a Rex green. This is Rex wax. 3 layers on a prep ski, and you're ready to go rock and roll.
How would you know where to put the markings on your own skis?
You can do that a couple different ways. One way is like what's called like the paper test. So you can stand on the skis, have someone take like a business card or a stick or piece of paper and go forward, and wherever you meet resistance, you know, that's kind of like your zones. And then you can do it on like standing on one ski and how far you can go forward. That's, you know, a place to start, and then, you know, how to rearrange that zone after that is up to you. You know, whether you want it to be a little farther forward, a little farther backward. But on classic skis, there's lots of different marks on the skis. So I went to this back green mark on this application, and you can kind of see like that ski is like race ready to rock and roll. You know, it has kick wax on, and the green wax, like this one, you can pass this wax around too if you want.
And Eric, these
we're
weren't
trying to range
factory marks, those are marks you put on
that I
with
put
nail
on.
polish.
So
based on-
those skis are flexed, or those marks are flexed for me. Yeah. Yeah.
So you said that you test the ski when you're skiing, when you're standing on one ski or both skis?
Both.
Well,
Yeah, that's
do-
what I'm talking.
Do a couple
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. So like one, if you're standing on one ski and sliding a piece of paper
Yeah.
forward or back, like it shouldn't move much because that's
Right, because you got your 100% right.
of your body weight. Like that
Yeah.
ski, that in theory, when you're standing on one
Has to be
ski,
compressed.
that ski is compressed.
Right.
All of the wax is in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, gripping the snow, getting ready to go on to the next ski, right? When you're on 2 skis, you're as 50-50 as you can be. So that's where you can kind of find the front and backs of your zones. This one, we'll do another wax application real quick. And then we can kind of wrap some things up. So when I talk about clister and getting super gross and sticky and everything else,
I hate this. I'm just gonna say it like.
Somebody
We
tell me
really
why we're
don't
still
need
not
to
gonna
do
use
this.
it.
Don't you love those skins?
And I hate cleaning the skin.
Eric and Noah both love this skiing.
Really?
So, clister skiing can be some of the best skiing in the whole planet. Like,
Yeah.
just being able to ski.
When it's that warm?
This is a cold clister.
Oh.
So blue, mainly for like ice, snow. So if I can get out of the Ziploc, because this tube is exploded, from like -15 to 0 Celsius, so 5 to 32 Celsius. Okay, so after sanding, right, and in this warm area, you know, this is going to be pretty sticky. But if you keep your clister tubes cold, you know, you can handle them a lot better. But you kind of see like this spider webby stuff, right?
Yeah.
And this remind me when you use clister.
So
Like
in
another top end.
transformed snow, like old snow, man-made snow, icy snow, any sort of mixture, like if it's freshly fallen but it's icy underneath. I mean, I use clister in lots and lots of different situations.
It's kind of more universal.
It's
than
a
trying to
little more
dial
universal
in,
than
like-
what we want to hope, yes. Yes. I had one of my favorite days skiing this year was at Pahaska on clister. And it was a purple clister, so a little warmer than this. It looks like unicorn blood, if like you remember Harry Potter. And about that consistency too. But because it was a little warmer. So really, one, knowing when you're going to use clister, and two, having everything prepped, ready to go, and zones taped before you get sticky, because this stuff goes everywhere, and just embrace that it goes everywhere. So having, you know, a designated table for this, a designated spot for this, a designated whatever, and then, you know, just having it ready to rock and roll and being able to bust out lots of skis. Like I would have all of the glide done on all of the skis before I would start getting sticky with clister. Okay? So, same thing with the hard wax, right? We don't need that much. We can always add more. It's really, really hard to take wax off, especially clister. So in this form of clister, you know, it is more or less a liquid, right? And ideally, we have it be as cold and as hard as we can before we go ski on it. So applying this, giving it a chance to cool down with enough time before we go ski. Otherwise, you look like the girls did when they jumped on their clister skis and end up on their face 3 steps in.
Did everybody have a chance to watch that 50K?
I didn't see
No,
that.
I didn't.
They have other
It was
skis.
bad.
Put them on.
Transition.
So they're able
They have
to,
different skis.
they're able
Yeah,
to
so they
switch
switch
skis
their
halfway
skis
through if
in
they
the
choose
race.
to.
Yeah,
So their skis are sitting in their spot,
right,
because they have to before the race or whatever.
right.
So they're sitting in the sun, they hop on the new skis and take 2 steps, every single one of them fell on their
Yeah.
faces.
So they switch skis again, or
No,
what?
they can't. You're back, you're.
You
once-
can't go
once
back.
You can't go back.
Oh, that's horrible. So what they do?
You just have to ski it out, I mean.
I mean, it's
Ski
just
it
like,
off.
yeah, just like with, you know, hard wax, you know, this will kind of ski in, work itself
So
in
they
over
ran the
time.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they were able to
So, you know, you can
Speed
kind of
it up.
see like,
smooth it out.
this is not that much. It's also not necessarily gonna go super far. Like if I try and spread this, it's not really gonna spread that much, right? So we have to add a little bit of heat, which is where the heat gun comes back in. You can use a torch, you can use a specific iron, not my nice one, but you can use an older iron, but really it's just warming it up so you can spread it out. Like that's the biggest thing. So adding a little bit of heat, and then just going at it and trying to make it as even as we can. All the way down the ski.
And is your thumb the best tool for spreading that?
Yeah. They have attempted to make lots of tools for everywhere, but I'm gifted with thumbs that look like this, and it's
Yeah,
amazing.
Eric and I have a recess retreat
Oh,
of blister
yeah.
thumbs.
Blister thumbs.
Blister thumbs.
So
Isn't that funny?
a lot of the time when I'm at big races or waxing for a lot, like I end up doing a lot of the glide, but I really enjoy kick waxing because it's always different. Where glide is like make a ski fast and try and make it faster, you know. Where kick wax, it's person specific, snow condition specific. You're never gonna have the same wax on the ski. You know, it's gonna be a little different. You can take one color of like this blue, you know, and do a full really thin layer, and you can come back in with like the purple wax that I use in Paska and do like 3 dots in the middle, just to add a little bit more, you know, right in the mud, like right under the foot, and then warm it up and mix it in. You can add a full layer. You can add, you know, different thicknesses of clister and have different, you know, properties and stuff like that. So it's just one of those things, like, it's amazing how it works.
Especially if skin stiff.
I was gonna say, and what do you do if you start skiing and you're like, okay, nothing is working, and then you gotta do clister and you don't have a heat gun?
You can
Can you just use your,
definitely,
just heat with your thumbs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, squeegee it with my thumbs a lot, or I'll use like the palm of my hand and like, you know, crank it in like
I
that.
think that's what Steve.
I also do that quite a bit with hard wax, you know, just with the sticks of wax, especially if I'm out there and some kid's complaining that they don't have kick, then I'll just pull something, random something that I have in my pocket, and just use the heel of my hand and kind of work it in. You know, it works out pretty well. So with the same kick cork, you know, getting the wax out of the groove, and kind of smoothing this out, and you know, also with clister specifically, you kind of run into sometimes in the same situation that you do with the structure, right? If you become like create this very fine, flat, glassy finish that doesn't repel water, right? And you know, then your skis are slower, sticky, or whatever. You can come through and make your own structure in the ski. You know, move water any way you can, you know, in and along the ski. We are losing, it's also really windy outside. Again. Yeah.
It's almost Tuesday.
So how do you take the clister off?
I'll show you. A magic. So same thing here, right? Of, you know, this ski has been prepped and ready to rock and roll, and you hand it to the athlete and say, don't get this on anything else, right? Right? So,
Wow.
you know, away you go.
It's beautiful. You did a good job.
Is that why when you
Work
see
'em up.
skiers at the start line and they're the classic race and they're
Yeah.
moving, they're
Yeah.
not like
Keep your
standing
skis,
still.
keep your skis moving, especially when you're on clister. Like if these are stopped, you know, that's just gives more time for the snow and this stick to bond, and then when you try and go, you don't go, and you end up on your face. Yeah, so when you're all done skiing on some beautiful clister skis, because it is really fun and it's really enjoyable, even though some people don't think so, we can get rid of it quite easily. We take our fun fiberline that's cut into strips, or not cut into strips, just a big chunk of it. Tap it down, one, so it doesn't get anywhere else, because it's already probably somewhere else, right? And two, like, so we can get rid of it. And we can take, you know, like a designated kick wax scraper Like a putty knife works awesome that you get at the hardware store. You know, just a simple scraper like this that is designated kick wax works great. But go back with some heat and kind of heat it up. You get the wax, you know, applied to the fiberline. I have used paper towels or the Blue Shop towels, and they work, but it's not as wonderful. If you have the fiberline, like this is definitely the ticket. So a little bit of heat, and you can use the kick iron for this too. You just go right on top of the fiberline and over. And then the biggest thing is having it like not on the base. So pretty hard pressure all the way down the ski. And then one, it's contained right here, which is cool. And then you kind of go back through and clean with some base cleaner. Use this same chunk of fiberline. Do some scrubbing. And depending on how long it's been skied, how long it's been sitting, how long, you know, since it's been since you've had blister, you know, lots of conditions can be, you know, can add to the amount of stick everywhere. Sometimes you get blister that like will run down the back half of your ski, so then you're cleaning the whole rest of the ski. But you know, just using the same scrubby essentially, and you can use you know, there's a couple of different things.
So Eric, are you feeling as well as seeing that blister is gone?
Yeah, so this is
Wow.
gone.
So Eric, tell me why I shouldn't use Goo Gone for wax, which is what I do. I have some.
It's goo.
Yeah.
It's goo.
I mean,
get it.
really,
It
like
works,
the
but that's-
chemical makeup of Goo Gone, the chemical makeup of paint thinner, and actual base cleaner are not that different. The biggest thing is just, you know, the base cleaner itself is not going to decay your ski base over time. So
Goo
where
Gone will?
Goo Gone, you know, is more chemical, whatever. I mean, it's definitely used all over the place. And, you know, there's folks that'll take like baby powder, tap baby powder into the blister
Yeah.
to one, make it not quite as sticky, and then be able to peel that off too. Like that is an option. This, you know, is a better option, but
Learned something.
yeah. And then if you have gloves, then you're not sticky anymore, which is also
That's
cool.
a key.
Right.
Yeah.
I wasn't even gonna bring up the baby. I'm sorry. Yeah, I tried that just on a whim because
Yeah.
we had some blister days.
Yeah.
and I said,
Oh, it works.
this works.
I mean,
So I figured,
like this is not like you saw how sticky that was, right?
Yeah.
It's not sticky.
okay.
So, some of your skiers that you're waxing kick wax for probably ski differently than others. So would you consider moving your kick zone forward or backward for them?
Yeah, for sure. So you can definitely adjust the kick zone per skier. You can also adjust the thickness of the wax. So like hard wax, you could do like 3 layers or 4 layers or 6 layers, or doing like full layers and then kind of pillowing. So like, you know, bringing up, you know, like the 4th and 5th layer is only like 4 inches long, where the rest of it is, you know, 6 inches long or something like that. Where blister, like you can do another layer of blister. You can add a couple of dots in the middle of the ski. You can add, you know, lots of different things. You can lengthen the zone, you can shorten the zone. Like the marks on the side of the ski are just a starting spot for the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you get to a pretty high-end event, are you beholden to some rules and regulations about how you wax and what you use and all that stuff?
Sometimes. The biggest thing is no fluoro. Like that's gone. Some races will have like a wax protocol. So, you know, you have like some races, especially in the US, where you can only use a certain wax on race day, one layer of it. So everyone
Huh.
is more or less on the same wax. So it's a little more equal, and you kind of have like the skier that's performing as opposed to like the ski and the wax that's performing, you know, so you kind of equalize that a little bit. But yeah, so there's definitely restrictions. But like the high-end races, nationals, World Cups, you know, big races, Berkey, West, Yellowstone, Rendezvous, like you can use whatever you want, just as long as it's not Florida.
Mm,
Yeah.
Cool.